More AI yip yap. Hopefully that word isn't racist. So whether it's the AI artist or it's the AI content creator, we are genuinely starting to see that humanity is being outsourced or attempting to be basically shoved aside. Mind you, not to make life more convenient to the average person. If we wanted to do that, then we'd just tax rich people and then allocate those resources properly. No, it's to get as many people away from executive, authoritative ownership class as possible. So as few people can own as much of the damn near modern world as possible. And what's scary about that is that America, with not only its military power, but also our nuclear capability, to be in the hands of a few cultish tech bros that not only are cultish, but have existed so long in these fantasy digital video game realities, they actually think now that they have the money to exact these DLC realities that now that's something they can actually do instead of maybe turning some of the exploitative money they've made back into the communities that they've fucked up. But the conversation I'm really trying to get onto here is the average person may be confused as to why tech bros are so ready to just like remove humans from society, as if you can make a society without human beings. And I want to offer you this perspective. Think about these tech bros when they're young kids. They're not the most attractive. They're not the most, maybe they're rich, but they're not rich enough to a point where anybody gives a fuck. And they're not out there or different enough to be accepted or like worthy of validation from their peers. So they're almost like sitting in the shadows. And when they are acknowledged by their peers, more times than not, they're either being bullied by other same-sex peers or being rejected by opposite-sex peers. So imagine you only are included in society to be basically used for your human energy and then punished for existing in society because you aren't of the standard that gets respect and validation. So this is like a tech bro startup story, but not a startup of their business, a startup of their childhood trauma. So mind you, in the old world, before we had all these technologies, the social medias and the video games to lose ourselves in these echo chambers of trauma bonds with other people who refuse to find healthy means to address their issues, people used to actually have to go out into the world, to the library and read a book instead of getting into a red pill echo chamber. People actually had to go to the skate park and learn how to ride a skateboard, or actually learn how to play the guitar, or learn how to write a song to express how they felt. Because the only thing that you couldn't do was nothing. Because if you did nothing about it, then it was just inevitable. You were going to be so depressed and so at the mercy of those negative emotions, you probably wouldn't make it out of there unless somebody's able to drag you out of there, or there's a drug that's tasty enough to keep you away from there, but still inside that psychosis. Mind you, I'm getting a little too lost here. The digital age came around and gave the guys who were not getting validation from their peers whatsoever. This doesn't have anything to do with women or like opposite sex. They weren't getting positive validation from anybody other than people who were kind of like them. And the only way they could really find people like them are when they're going to these coding boot camps or these STEM competitions or these little video game events. But still, when they're in their actual reality, their own present reality, if they don't have friends or like-minded people, they're probably isolated with the video game. Some people isolated with the corn. Some people isolated with imaginary friends that they don't even know are real, but are connecting to them and communicating them behind these user profiles on these internet networks. But what I'm trying to say is that these young tech bros, they have to basically become their own source of entertainment or their own source of fun. And I think one of their, I don't know if it's a lifelong dream, but something that they always wanted was to be not only included in society, but respected and appreciated for being in society. They got the respect for basically building the modern world that we are enslaved to, not that we live in, we're enslaved to. So the revenge comes with being in a position of authority, and that authority will be used to create standards of what acceptable or desirable humanity is, when you can basically just, again, outsource humanity by using your AI robot or your servant, whatever term is being used, agent, I'm pretty sure. So now we as everyday human beings who didn't know that we were going to be punished for being able to exist in general social settings are at the mercy of being accepted by the people who, instead of wanting to humble themselves or educate themselves in a way to engage with us, they decided to say, hey, if you make me uncomfortable, I'm going to replace you with a robot who makes me feel good. And maybe good isn't the final answer, but you have to really sit here and think, like, why are we deploying robots while sacrificing humanity? The only point is to get the responses that I want while sacrificing the potential that I don't hear what I want or I don't get what I want. Sit here and think about how narcissistic that is. And that's the rulers of the world that we live in, servicing the future of technology to serve immediate desires of the self at the mercy of the world that we collectively have to live on, because they know if shit starts to go haywire, they can just get up and move. So I keep on having these conversations, because everyday Americans are not at the mercy of getting up and moving to a new country, and even if that, at best, moving to a new orbit, a new planet. You're at the mercy of the decisions that the people who have power make completely. And the less people who have opportunity to have power, the less people who have access to holding that power accountable, the more quickly and the more severe those decisions will be, or at least the consequences of those decisions will be, and the less you're going to be able to say about them at all. But I guess, honestly, the future, I hate even saying like the future as if it's anything further than 5 years, because we're moving too fast, but the future of like outsourced humanity is going to be AI creators and artists. That'll be a means to not only create, but to control the culture and make sure that nobody is saying any dissenting opinions or nobody's communicating any kind of rebellious activity beyond what is socially acceptable. AI girlfriends will come in at some point. AI girlfriends are going to be a means to, what I believe AI girlfriends will be used for is a means of like pitting traditional women against this impossible standard, and then creating a society that's just so unsafe that basically women are forced, you're either living in this unsafe world alone because we're not going to let you have a community, or you're going to have to act better than this AI slave that has a wig that makes it look like a woman. And the final thing is that, which is another theory that I had, it's AI is supposed to, like, to facilitate capitalism, AI is supposed to replace executives first. Create systems that are actually efficient, replace the executives with those systems, because all executives are is oversight. And then the people who actually generate the wealth and like the value of the business, let those people decide how the business is regulated from there in some like regular annual meeting type situation. But we're living in a world where the best idea, the best pioneering or like visionary idea we have for artificial intelligence is a slave. And until we have more creative people who look at artificial intelligence as a tool to be used to dig deeper into humanity and discovering this world we live in, rather than just a tool to exploit, to like gratify our desires, I'm telling you, we might blow this world up before we see any of the positive benefits that these guys are selling us.